Hi there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Josh Mansfield, I'm a teacher with the Demon, and with me is Nathan Fox, one of the founders of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast Thinking LSAT. Nate, today it's not an email, it's a question that came in a class of mine. This comes from Christina, and she had a question specifically regarding non-traditional applicants.
All right, it says, as non-traditional applicants, does GPA play as large of a role in admissions decisions as it does for K through JDs? I've been out of school for more than a decade. My undergraduate GPA isn't reflective of who I am now or of my academic abilities. Where should I go for letters of recommendation? That's a different question. How do I leverage my personal statement in order to reflect my skills from my time in the workforce, which is yet another question. So we've got three questions here from Christina.
Kind of a series around the theme of I'm not coming right out of undergraduate. And so how do I make my application reflect that? I think that's kind of a broad question.
Sure. So I'm going to say yes and no to your first question. Does it play as large of a role in admissions? Your undergraduate GPA, does it play as large of a role in admissions as it does for K through JDs? Yes, to the extent that they use index formulas. I mean, they take your LSAT times a constant plus your GPA times a constant, and they turn your candidacy into one number. It's an index formula. And they do that because they have to publish your LSAC GPA, and higher GPA raises the prestige of the school. Lower GPA lowers the prestige of the school. So from that perspective, they don't care whether you've been out of school for 30 years or 3 days. It's just cynically, how is this going to affect our ranking?
Right.
And so from that perspective, they don't care at all.
To the no point, though, every year schools admit splitters, people who have a below 25th percentile GPA or below median GPA, and being out of school longer might earn you some consideration in the comparison with other splitters. But what that requires is that you have an LSAT score that is above their median or above their 75th percentile to be in that conversation of, look, there is some downside in terms of reporting their GPA, but there's also upside on the LSAT. How do they compare against other splitters? They've done 10 years as a paralegal. Awesome. Like that's going to be a great fit for our school, right?
Yeah. They look at GPA because it affects their 509 reports, which affects their US News rankings, and there's no comments on the GPA, whether you were out again for 30 years or 30 minutes. It's just your GPA, and they have to report that. So they do use GPA though for another purpose, which is to figure out whether you're going to be a good law student. You know, are you going to be successful in my school? And to the extent that they care about that as they're making their admissions decision, they might be willing to entertain, as Josh said, if you're a splitter, right? So you have to show up with the right LSAT. Hopefully you're raising the LSAT profile of the school. They look at that and they go, wow, okay, so this raises our ranking on the LSAT metric. Not only that, but indicates that Christina has the horsepower to get it done. And then they might look one click further, what's up with this GPA? Oh, well, it was a long time ago. I wouldn't try to excuse it away, Christina, but to your point about your personal statement and your letters of recommendation, I would strongly encourage you to just make it about your professional career. Make yourself look like a grown-up. I can't tell you how bad it is and how often people start telling stories about their childhood when they're a grown-up. And then I start reading your personal statement and it's like some shit that happened to you in 4th grade. That's not what we're here to learn about. We're here to learn about who you are today. So you've been working as a paralegal? Let's hear about your career as a paralegal. I would write a personal statement about your success in the workforce. I would get letters of recommendation from your current boss, maybe a former boss. And then the admissions committee looks at that whole package and they go, okay, high LSAT, low GPA splitter probably doesn't help or hurt the prestige of the school. LSAT indicates she's got the horsepower, but does she know what she's getting herself into? Is she going to actually be a successful attorney? And then they look at your personal statement, your letters of recommendation, your resume, and they see this, professional career. And now they're comparing you against a K through JD. If there's a K through JD with similar numbers, now they look at you and they are going to definitely be more attracted to you because you're going to look really employable based on your work history, personal statement, and letters.
I think as well in that letter of recommendation, you'll see some schools that'll say when that they prefer at least one letter of recommendation, and there's different variations of this language. Some say when possible, others say one of your letter of recommendations should be from a professor. I think these are examples though that the letter of recommendation would be better served reflecting that professional work experience, right?
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
don't that statement's designed to stop people who, from going to their minimum wage job or like their college job that they were working
Right.
and grabbing that instead of a professor because they were a top employee. And sure, they probably were, but for a lot of those students, their undergraduate academics is the best reflection of the skills that they have in terms of their ability to succeed as a law school and then to become employed. If you've been out in the workforce, that is your best skill
Yeah.
and way to show, hey, I'm employable as an adult. And so get the letters of recommendation that reflect that.
Anything more for Christina?
No, I think that's it.
Is Christina a paralegal, by the way?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I know she works in the legal field.
Love paralegals, legal secretaries, anybody who's got actual experience working in a law firm. It just makes you look like a grown up who knows what they're getting themselves into. And so many, especially the K through JDs, they just wash out because they have no idea. They get into it and they're like, oh my God, I thought school was serious, but you're actually expecting me to work. And people who have worked before tend to thrive in law school. They realize how lucky they are to even be there. And if they've worked in law specifically, then they have connections. They have a history working in law firms, and you start to look more employable and that's part of what they're ranked on is what are the job outcomes. So, yeah, I just want to say it one more time. Try to look like a grown up in your application.
If I can just tack one thing onto that, I did an interview during this application cycle. Professor asked me what I wanted to do, described what my interest is. He told me that I was the first one that he had interviewed that did not say First Amendment issues or immigration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people who haven't worked in the legal field. And so
right, like having practical exposure to what real lawyers, real law firms do. If you have had business interactions with the law and you can talk about working working in the law. And by the way, I'm not talking about your personal legal matters because that also makes you look immature.
Right.
Professional working in the law is fantastic. And if you have that on your resume, I really want to see it in your personal statement because if I read your personal statement first and it's talking about something that happened in your childhood, I read it and I have no idea who you are and why. That's not putting your best foot forward. If you have that kind of professional experience, you want to make that clear just right off the bat.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for Christina now.
Thanks, Christina. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you would like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.